welcome everybody to podcast number 82 from 5-Pin Universe. As everybody knows, hockey has started today. The professionals get to keep on playing their sports and doing their work, and we're all stuck at home. But moving on with that, we got the Wiseman brothers, Tim and Dexter, and Daryl Bradley is back in the house after his week of well-earned time off.
Yeah, a little skiing, a little hot springs, fellas. It was good. It was good to do it.
Awesome.
Incredibly jealous, honestly.
That's some new music and a new icon too. Hey, Jerry, well done.
A little bit of work. We might have got called out by a Boofa rep. They had the same intro, so I mixed it up a little bit here for them. So
I like it. I want to know what everybody thinks. Who does it look like the most? What's everybody right?
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Tim's is perfect.
Yeah.
Tim's is perfect. We had to work, or Carrie had to work on Daryl's a few times trying to get that jawline right. But Tim doesn't have a jawline, so that was easy.
We need jawline. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Gray hairs in my beard. I don't know if you could do that. It's a speckle.
Yeah, exactly. Hard to do on black and white. So will this flash on the screen? All our patrons, we gathered a couple more patrons over the week. We thank them very much, Kathy Davidson and James Boxall. Once again, it's just at patreon.com/5pinuniverse. You can now pay in Canadian funds for as little as $2 a month and help support us run this podcast and produce a bunch of more media going on here. Once again, we would like to thank All Star Bowling Sales for supporting us for another episode. They are happy enough to advertise on our podcast, and go visit them at allstarbowlingsales.com and purchase some bowling stuff, because hopefully we'll get the bowl soon out here. We'll just put them up here. You guys have any people you want to call out on this list?
Crickets, eh? We got crickets out there.
Crickets. Everybody's happy with what's going on. That was a bad segue.
There might have been an anonymous donation to 5-Pin Universe.
Yeah. BPG might have
anonymous
something in the works for future events.
Yeah.
All right. We'll slap All Star Bowling Sales, and then we'll bring our special guest of the week on with us, and we'll try not to keep you up too late, everybody from out east. And our special guest of the week is proud Newfoundlander, Mr. Brad Glynn.
Hey guys.
Hey buddy.
It's gonna be a late one out there for the Easterners.
Yeah, it's way past my bedtime right now.
It looks like we're officially going to have to ban some people off our chat already, eh? All these people cheering for Canucks. What is
There
this?
must be Canucks fans in the group.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Brad, are you a hockey fan? Are you watching hockey tonight? Who would you be supporting?
I would be supporting the Leafs, so we'll move on from that now.
For the background. 3-3, I think. I'm going to be the hopefully nobody's taping that one because they're watching us live. Right?
Yeah, hopefully. Minimized on their phone or something. Awesome. So, Brad, obviously Newfoundland, being an island and stuff, has dealt with COVID a little bit better than us mainlanders. Can you go over how things have kind of gone for you out there?
Again, we're so incredibly lucky. Like, truly, schools kind of shut down March 15th as I'm a kindergarten teacher. And I work at a private school. We ran our school from March to June online. Our public system just basically shut down for those months. So teaching kindergarten on a Zoom is about as fun as you would imagine. It is, but I felt lucky to do that. And honestly, we've had in-school learning since September. Our businesses are generally up and running. Restaurants got limited restrictions. Everywhere's got little things. But I mean, we're down to 3 cases right now. We're almost done that bump that you would expect from Christmas, right? Hit Friday. Friday is 2 weeks since New Year's Eve, and we haven't had a huge increase. We've had 4 deaths, and any death is sad, but compared to what other places are seeing, we're really lucky, right? And part of it's that we're an island, and part of it's that people are doing a great job of doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Good.
Yeah, you guys did as a province what Canada should have done as a whole, which is just lock down everybody, just lock down the country. Don't let people in and out all or a day. You guys did a great job of that, and honestly, way to use your environment. I love it.
Yeah, it helped a lot.
Is anybody allowed into the province or like inter-province travel flying in, or what's the rules on that?
So rotational workers are allowed to come in and out. There's been various levels of restrictions of them. Obviously, we got lots of rotational workers coming back and forth from your province. Both of our oil and gas industries, right? So there are limited restrictions on them. They've increased and decreased depending on how things are here. And other people can get exemptions to come here. They do need to do. Right now, it's a 14-day quarantine if you're not a rotational worker. It was less than that, but once things kind of had an uptick in December, our Chief Medical Officer of Health and our Minister of Health, who's also a doctor, which is helpful at this time, locked everything down pretty quickly. So it's pretty limited.
Mm-hmm.
Smart. Now, you were saying before, bowling is still happening there?
Yeah, so we had league last night. All the centers are open for open play and for league bowling, which makes sense.
So can you tell us if your league? I've seen some of your videos. League's like normal, like you guys are still bowling cross lane against your same normal team. There's no shifts. There's no anything like that.
No, everything's normal. We got to wear a mask if we're not in the pit. Is the only rule. We're not clapping hands, which is just absolutely lovely in a league. Anyway, we should probably keep that as a thing, in my opinion. But outside of that, like league is just league. At first, it was a little bit different, but it's just everyone's doing what they're supposed to, and it's great because we're able to support the providers and we're able to be in a bowling alley throwing balls.
Yeah, no doubt.
I am incredibly jealous.
Yeah, that's
time to pick up a bowling alley and move it.
Yeah,
we're all moving to Newfoundland.
Yeah, what they're doing to ye out there is just absolutely brutal when you look at what they're allowing and what they're not allowing. It just doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah. They crushed a few industries out here.
Yeah.
Brad, Kathy Davidson want to know, what hand are you in? Is that your right hand you're drinking with, or is that your left hand you're drinking with?
I'm drinking my beer with my left hand. I'm a right-handed bowler. I understood where she was going, though.
I'm not sure if you drank everyone with your left hand. Just
okay. We'll move it over here now. Just to be safe.
Kathy is the quickest on that. She wants to
she's a hawk.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
I was just going to say, so kind of moving on from COVID, if a lot of people in the bowling world didn't hear, long time bowling aficionado out of Newfoundland and part of the countrywide bowling community, Mr. Bobby Osborne happened to pass away, lost his fight with cancer. He was battling it for quite a few years, to my knowledge and everything like that. So obviously we want to give our condolences out to the Newfoundland community and to the rest of the bowling community that shared memories with Bobby. And we'd like to take this moment with you, Brad, to talk about some stories about Bobby and let us know the good times.
First of all, thanks for your thoughts, guys. Obviously, first of all, is his wife and his family, but our bowling community obviously absolutely devastated. There's not many industries where you got someone who's either the best or second or third best bowler in the history of a province, is also one of the best guys in the province. It also owns 3 of the bowling alleys in the province. Just the combination. When I found out yesterday, your mind goes to these funny places, right? With Bob, people generally have 2 types of memories, right? On the lanes and in his hotel room having a party. But for me, my first memory were both around my wedding, actually. So I'm gonna tangential away from bowling just for a minute. The week before my wedding, I was chatting with him one morning, having a coffee, and I said, "Me and Karen are looking for a house." And he went, "Oh, I got a house. Come buy that." and we go out to Torbay, which is just outside of St. John's. And he showed me this house, and I'm like, "What do you want for it?" And he gave me whatever market value was for it, and then he said, "I'll knock $50,000 off it." And we ended up not buying the house off him just because everything was rushed and with the wedding. You don't want to make a bad choice, but that was Bob. He, in his mind, it was a friend, and he just wanted to give it. And then on the day of our wedding, my wife's a bowler. We met through bowling. We obviously wanted to go to the lanes for some pictures, and all we said was, "Can you close the lanes for an hour for us to get some pictures?" And we go down to the lanes. And he's got the rose petals all over the place. He's got engraved champagne glasses. He's got the champagne there for us. He's after telling who was working at the bowling alley to let us have a few rounds on him. And that's the guy, right? That's kind of where my mind went. When I kind of thought of him, and those are the things that the people don't get to see when they just see him at these tournaments, right? That was just him.
Mm-hmm. Everything I've ever heard of Bob is that he's been super, super giving, just like you said. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but after the 2013 gold medal at the Open, there did he not buy everybody rings? There it is. Yeah,
exactly. I'll move it up close. Yeah, they're Super Bowl S 2013 C5 Open champions with the LA Lanes. On it. I knew that'd get brought up, so I went and fished it out of my sock drawer about 20 minutes ago. And again, never told us anything about it. And then all of a sudden, we show up down to the lanes one day, and he goes, "Oh, I have these for you." And you're like, "Who gets Super Bowl rings for winning a national bowling tournament? Like, why isn't C5 doing this? Can we get rid of the watches and go to this?"
Totally.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah,
but I mean, it was such a huge thing for him, and it was such a huge moment in his career. Because was that number 57, his 57th time at nationals at that point?
Yeah, I was watching. Dave Post says it in the video, and I think it was 57. It was certainly getting in that range because in the end he was 62. And I tried to count backwards, and I think that would have been 57. And for Bob, I've said this to a bunch of people in the past 2 days. What was great and infuriating about Bob was all he cared about was winning that Open men's team. He's this guy with multiple 450s, multiple like 100, 1,000, 62 national tournaments, 285 average in league, multiple years. And all he cared about was winning that one men's team Open thing. And like, yeah, that's great when you're in it with him and that passion. But then you're watching this guy bowl who, when he turns it on, finds 1600s for fives, finds, in a switch, and you're like, where is that? And he just didn't care. He didn't care about singles bowling. He'd bowl the Masters. All he wanted to do was win that Open team with Holiday Lanes, and we were lucky enough to manage to pull it off after a lot of false starts in my time, and even more false starts before then, right?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of neat too, because I guess that's a big difference between Newfoundland and here is that your Open teams are based out of your centers, correct?
Yeah, we've changed the naming. NL5 has changed the naming, but it's still very much so. They're Metro 1, Metro 2, but it's still very much attached to the bowling alley.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And here it's definitely a zone thing. So I could see, and Masters out there is a zone thing. Obviously, it's a provincial wide qualifying to start with. So I can see why that would, as a business owner and somebody who has that much pride in his center, I could see why the Open would be his goal, because it's straight out of his center with his people, and that's super neat.
Absolutely.
And he played all the events too, right? He did the Open, the Masters.
Bob.
Or IP classified. He did them all.
He did everything. I think if there was a nationals to play in, he played in it outside of YBC, because he didn't start bowling until his late teens, which is almost even more of a kick in the face, because how do you get that good if you start bowling when you're 17 or 18 years old? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
It was crazy, because I did not know until I went on to the page to remember Bobby O today, right? And he played the IP.
Yeah.
Like that guy who's that good, he wanted to try out for the interprovincials. And for any of us out there, like that, we would never even think about that, right? And he played the IP and he went to nationals, like too. I believe that as well, right? So
yeah, and I was telling you before, right? He used to go to a tournament he didn't want to play in and played obligation, and he'd get home and Paul would look at him and go, "You won, didn't you?" And he'd almost be like shaking his head in shame that she knew he was spending another week away at a bowling tournament. That he had no intentions, I don't want to play this, right? Like we all say sometimes. And then 62 times you end up you end up away at them.
60 national championships you've been to.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's foolish, really.
Other across the country, who's been to more, right?
Yeah,
that's got to be right up there with the most ever. So that's pretty special. Good on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Yeah.
And now last night, obviously, you were saying, the guys league bowling. It was good to, get together. Had a couple of shots of Screech and the crew there, saying other final little goodbyes.
Yeah, it was our kind of a pro league is Tuesday nights, and we had it and we got down. And at first, it was pretty sad. Everyone kind of did that thing that guys do, where you're half teary eyed and you suck it up and walk away from each other, or you pretend like you got, stuff up your nose or whatever it is. And, we had a moment of silence for him. And then people started telling stories, which, Newfoundlanders especially, it's kind of how we deal with things. And you just hear these stories, and to hear a story about Bobby that I've never heard in my life, and to hear this person that he did this thing for. And, I got to tell Melissa Manor, obviously, who's a dear friend of mine. I told her a story from 2006 that she had never heard before. It was really great that we had league last night. I think, a few of us wondered whether it happened or not, but I think it was really good that we all got to be down together to kind of share that stuff.
I think we all want to know what the story was.
So, Cole's notes.
Okay.
St. Pat's was always our competition. The team won in 2014. They defended our national gold medal. They had a rough year and they didn't make the step ladder. So we're in Corner Brook, and there was 2 hotels in Corner Brook. So we were at one and they were at the other. And for whatever reason, they ended up getting Bob to go drinking with them at their hotel. So it's about 11:30 at night, and our coach looks at myself and Mike Maloney and says, "You got to go get him." So we wander our little arses down to get him. And Bobby loved playing the spoons. And he's playing the spoons in this hotel room, and Mike Maloney just keeps taking the spoons on him. But Mike could take spoons, and all of a sudden, there was 2 more spoons. So eventually we leave the hotel with him, and we're doing that drunk walk back to a hotel, and we hear this clanging, and we go, "What is that?" And he takes like 10 spoons out of this pocket of his, and he dumps them. And then we keep walking, and we hear it again. And we're like, "Bobby, do you have more spoons?" And then he takes his back pockets, and there's more spoons. And then we keep walking, and finally, one more time, there are still spoons. And Mikey, in his good wisdom, kind of very sternly and probably with some pretty creative words, said, "Bobby, any spoons that are on you right now need to go away." Yeah.
You didn't make a trail of the spoons. That's how you know you get there, right?
I said to Manor, I wonder if I went out there, if I could find a spoon still out there, because there was a good 30 or 40 spoons came out of these pockets. Because I think
walking your way home.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How did he get them?
Yeah.
Like
they were in a ball. They were in a ballroom. The St. Pat's teams were making some noise, so they made a deal with the hotel that they'd stop making noises in their hotel room if they got a ballroom, Newfoundland. And so there's spoons everywhere. So once Mike started taking his spoons, I guess his logic was, well, if I get all the spoons in this room, Mike can't take all the spoons on me.
I love it. Man.
So I guess how did I only knew Bobby at maybe a handful of times I met him, but how did he get into the spoons? And then if you didn't get the spoons, he got into beer bottles, he got into all that stuff, didn't he?
His wife and his his extended friend group. Bobby has a bunch of friend groups outside of bowling. There's a very musical group of people.
Yeah.
Now, Bobby wasn't the most musical guy. He wasn't a singer, this or that. But if you were there, you were being musical. So I don't think any of you were at the 2012 Masters, but we did a pub crawl the second last night of the event, and we ended up at Greensleeves, which is a classic Newfoundland bar, and the place is packed. And next thing you know, we look up on the stage, and there's a live band playing at this stage. And who was sitting on a chair in the middle of the stage, backwards, not looking at everybody, giving it to her on the spoons is Bobby. And he wasn't even in this world at that moment in time. God love him. But that's what he played. And if you took the spoons on the beer bottles, he could take bottle caps actually. And he'd pinch the bottle caps on his fingers. And I don't know where you get those talents. I don't know how you learn that you can do that.
Oh, man. That's amazing. Yeah.
You can see a video of the spoons being played.
Yeah, there's plenty out there in the past couple of days.
Okay.
You will.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, because I remember 2013 I came down the hallway and all of a sudden I was like, what's that noise? It's Bobby O playing the spoons.
Yeah, and once he got really good going, right, he played people, right? So he'd just go around and he'd play, My Lovely Bald Head, right? Hey, I'm going to play on Brad's head for a minute, right? I'm going to play on this person, especially if someone wasn't enjoying it. Yeah.
Call them out. Lots of good cards, Bobby. A big part of the bowling community out there. So and everywhere across the country. Lots of good comments coming from across the country.
Absolutely.
Sad to have him go.
So Dexter put together a little video package. We're going to display that on the screen now. Our audio listeners obviously won't be able to hear or see it, but we'll probably talk over it. There's probably no music or sound to it, is there, Dexter?
Just for a couple spots, but you'll hear it.
We'll talk over it, and maybe Brad can illuminate some insight to the pictures.
There's a lot. There's probably only 10 pictures or something like that, and a couple of videos too.
Perfect.
See, there's Bobby. Look at that. That's terrible.
Total ladies' man, eh?
Yeah, and look at that. That mustache should be in videos. This is him. This is an all-star team. This would have been the last. I think it's the last Open he played. I might be wrong on that. This is a mixed team in 2016. Bob nor I was on this team of provincials. 2 guys had to drop off it, and we ended up getting to be on the team. This is our 2012 team. We won silver at nationals. We lost to a powerhouse from Hamilton in the finals. Here he is.
Okay.
Yeah, there he's going. Yeah.
Well, the Cotton Eye Joe, I love it.
Oh, look at that! It's just terrible. And he doesn't care about anyone else. And there he is playing the spoons on. I think I don't know who it is. I think it might be Megan.
That's definitely Megan's ass.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that's 2013. That's him and Murph after we got the medals.
Yeah. Oh, we know.
So that's the win. And this was Budweiser was a sponsor, and of course Bob had this little smart car, so we did a photo shoot that fall.
We brought it in. Remember, we brought it in, right?
Yeah. So this is the Atlantic. So there was an Atlantic tournament for years and years and years. So I think Bobby's 32 or 33 in this. And I watched this video 20 times in the past 2 days because this is just Bobby all over. I'm
just that amount of passion, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just always you watch him and he's 5 foot nothing, 140 pounds. He takes his arm 7 feet over his head, and then he beats the tar out of you.
Kind of looks a little bit like Carey's style, but less power.
Yeah, just tad. Right, one of his nicknames is Whipper, and it's all from that arm. And here he goes again.
Sure. Just that pure passion, just to
celebration after a strike, right?
Oh, it's unreal.
Yeah. Look at that. It's just ridiculous. It's Randy Earl. Sean Wells, obviously a great guy. And this is us. Once we won the gold medal, we'd made the decision we were going to pick him up. He was so mad at us in the moment for doing this because he wanted to be about the team. And we were like, no, dude, like you're going up on our shoulders right now. It's happening.
Yeah, no, this is the last picture. It's one of my absolute favorite pictures I've seen from all of it. It's perfect. It's just it's that's why we were the team that you guys beat that weekend or that gold medal game. And like Tim said today in his post, there was never a point where we were heartbroken or upset about it, just because of the pure elation that we could see with you guys and with Bobby. It was incredible. It was such a incredible experience being there in that moment of 2013. Shoved into the corner of 1 and 2. I have no idea. I'll never know why that was a thing. But here we are, just jammed into that corner. It was one of the most loudest experiences I've ever been involved with, and seeing how happy you guys were and being there for Bob's first win, it was amazing. It was so cool.
I don't know if you guys ever been to Holiday Carry or DB before, but Holidays, it's a tight little venue.
Oh man.
And it's a tight little venue. It's probably, I would like to say it's probably maybe double the size of the walkway behind Collingwood. It was Collingwood like that. And it was so packed in there that that it was up the stairwell back all the way the back way and around the front, and they were running through so much beer. It was warm, like it was piss warm, and people were just drinking warm beer out of the case, and it was just absolutely just nuts in there. It was and all I remember was they stuck us in 1 and 2. I still got to talk to Sheila why she did that, but
on 1 and 2
we were bowling 1 and 2 on a gold medal match.
There was a 2-3 game on it before. My brother was saying who it was. It was it wasn't any Newfoundland teams. It probably had the biggest fan base of any stepladder game before it, because everyone got there and wanted to be down by 1 and 2. Like
it was absolutely crazy. And so the whole place was packed and nobody could see anything over there. And I just remember and I got pulled that game. I can remember that because I was that bad.
That seems about right.
And the ball returns and everything was just shaking in there, and it was just crazy. And I remember Justin Sullivan just absolutely hammering the lockers behind 1 and 2, and he's going meathead Zilla over there, just going hardcore on it like this. And it had nothing to do with anything because it was already over, right? But it was just a ruckus in there, and it was crazy. And all I remember at the end was Schultz and I think Brad going ball for ball at the end, I think. Right?
Schultz. We got up in 10 and Schultz, he said, let's go for ball for ball. One of my favorite parts about that is me and my dad and my brother were talking about this today, is Bobby got pulled at provincials that year in the finals.
Yeah.
And he got pulled at nationals in the finals. He was terrible. He was 132 in the 8th. And he and I often, Cal White was our coach in the door lineup, but we, like you do at our level. And I remember he got up and he missed in the 8th or whatever, and we were just kind of like, this is it. And that would bother some guys, right? Because it just would, because you want to perform in that moment. And it just so didn't matter to him, and it never, ever mattered to him. He couldn't – it didn't matter whether he was the guy who threw the 130 or Adam Lohman who threw the 340 for us. He wanted that gold medal, and he just was so thrilled to have it. And that day, it was just – we always go to the room for the few drinks beforehand, and we got there, and it was just so quiet. And we just really weren't talking, and the nerves were really hitting, and he almost, I want to say it's like we knew. Obviously, you were a powerhouse team, with the two Wisemans and Schultze and Brett Mapstone and Sean Smith, and I think Remo Nestor was the other guy. But we just knew that it was meant to be. Me, Bobby, and Mike Maloney were the guys who were always on the team, and then that year we had Murphy and Lohman and Billy Woods with us, and we just couldn't see losing twice in that house. Dex and Tim, you'd obviously get it. You couldn't imagine someone coming into Sherwood and taking 2 games on you to take a gold medal. And that was kind of the way it was. And the best part about that was Bobby won, and the first thing he did was he looked at us and said, the bar's open. There's no money going into the bar. The bar's just open. If you're drinking, go get it now.
No,
Yeah.
That was your home lanes too.
Yeah, well, he owns it. Like literally, he ended up owning
I mean,
3
that was
lanes.
your home lanes that you got a chance to win a national title at your home lanes, and you guys qualified first.
Yeah.
We qualified first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you
we
got twice. Yeah, wow.
yeah.
And did you win the first game or second?
Yeah, first game. Yeah, we
Third.
had 2 guys. Our 2-3 bowlers got out on pretty big runs,
Yeah.
which is when the bowling alley got ridiculous. Like there was a game on 5 and 6, and the bowlers were literally having to stop. And you know you're prepping for that noise when you're in those big games. But it was unbelievable. It was a totally it was just too much almost.
Yeah. I think the Manitoba ladies were on 5 and 6 playing against Alberta ladies. I think at that point, right? It was absolutely, it was like it was a ruckus. It was absolutely the coolest experience I've ever had. I know we lost, but it was like I said in my post today. It was probably the coolest experience, and obviously it showed us other things in life. There was more important things, right? And it was pretty cool.
Yeah. For me, one more story on it is I'm really great at bowling math, and Bobby is absolutely terrible at bowling math. So I would always tell Bobby, I'd always be the person like, "Hey, Bobby, you need this, or Bobby, you need this, or Bobby, you need that." And God love Andrew Murphy. Andrew Murphy in the 10th frame. Bobby always wanted to know when it's mathematically over, right? And Andrew Murphy turned around after like the second bowler and went like, "It's done." And Bobby just as plain as day went, "Brad's going to tell us when it's done." and like two balls later, I like put my arm around him and I was like, "It's done." And he looked at Andrew and was like, "It's done now." Yeah.
I like this, Ryan. You say you've got a 2.5-minute video of the finish here. You can barely hear anything. That'd be awesome if you could figure out a way to send that to Carrie or to upload that or something maybe later on, or just on on Facebook or somewhere later on. If we can figure out a way to get that, that'd be awesome to see.
Yeah, that's my brother, so I'll share it widely if he gets it up.
Yeah.
We will definitely share that.
Yeah. Well, good stuff on Bobby. I mean, a lot of good stories, a lot of good memories, people across the country. So good on you guys for having a toast last night. Good on Bobby for living a heck of a good life.
Absolutely.
Let's switch gears a little bit though. Let's go back to some Brad Glynn stuff. Okay, let's find out a little bit more. And that's good to hear, Brian. Get that up in the memory group. Brad, where did 5-pin bowling start for you? Let's go back.
It started with an older brother who went bowling with some buddies. I'm not from St. John's. I'm from Carbonear, small town. I had a 6-lane house. My brother was in grade 6, and he had some buddies who were pretty good bowlers at the time. And he went to YBC one week, and therefore the next week, I went to YBC. I played out there. I was lucky enough, me and my brother, the first nationals I went to was in '96 on a junior boys team with my brother. And bowling was so fun back then because we had no clue. We were playing provincials that year, and it was still a projector score machine. And we had no idea, checking to see whether we were up, whether we were down. My dad was coaching us that day because our coach had someone die in his family or something, and he didn't know any better because he didn't know bowling. And we threw these 2 monster last games. And like, we're sitting at the end of the tournament, nowadays, I'm like, how ridiculous is this? And we didn't know we won, because we didn't understand the concept of going, oh, let's add these games together and then add this last game together, and we will have the final standings. So literally when they announced that we won, it was that surprising. So my YBC career was mostly out of there. I moved into St. John's when I was in grade 11 and had some, provincial level success here. I won a couple senior boys singles, went away on a senior boys team, went away on a youth challenge. But I really struggled to break through nationally. I've got I think it's 7 or 8 fourth place finishes in nationals, and a lot of them were early on in the career, which was pretty tough. The funny thing is there was no such thing as the Open in Carbonear. So I didn't know what the Open was. And then even when I moved to St. John's, I bowled at Plaza Bowl, which wasn't a member of NL5 at the time. So I was even in St. John's. I mean, my last couple of years YBC, I was a 265 to 270 bowler. And I had no idea there was this tournament for me to go to. It was only like the second half of my last year senior that had happened. And honestly, thinking of Bob now, it's kind of funny because it probably made more sense for me to end up at St. Pat's Lanes, which was our competition for the decade. We kind of did stuff. But some things happened my last year at YBC that made me go, I'm not going with those guys. And I ended up down the Holiday Lanes and ended up meeting this Bob Osborne as a proprietor. So my early years I was good, but I didn't know how to win. So we have a pro league. We don't have draft leagues. We have a pro league. And I actually I looked at Bobby when I first went down to his lanes. And I said, I'm not bowling on a team in the pro league till you put me on your team. And now that I'm 36, I'm like, what a dick thing for a 19-year-old to say to this 45-year-old man. Like, seriously. But God love him. It took 3 years, but he eventually put me on his pro league team because my big struggle was throwing shots when it mattered, and those nerves you get when you get up. And Bobby is the man for that, and I knew that was the hole in my game that I needed kind of filled. And that's kind of that's how I got into bowling. But I was a 19-year-old who was a really, really good bowler and had no idea what the open was, right? And there's a lot of bowlers out there like that, unfortunately.
Do you remember Mark Johnstone? I was talking to him today, and he had said that YBC Nationals
2000
senior bowlers, and it was quite unique because Johnny at the time wasn't very well known.
Yeah.
And he had beat Matt Schultz here in Alberta.
Yeah.
And you had beat Lee Escott there in Newfoundland, which at the time were the two big guys in the YBC all-time greats. So do you remember winning that one and going to nationals as YBC, Mark had said?
I do. I threw a 133 the first game of provincials. And I had this guy, Stephen Crawford, was coaching. It was only 5 games. And this guy, Stephen Crawford, who was probably only 23 or 24, but he was like little brick shit house, whatever the phrase is. And Lee had thrown like a 280 odd or whatever. And like Stephen basically threatened me, like, if you don't bowl well, like, I'm going to kick your ass. Like, that was the extent of the motivational speech. And it worked. And I can remember it was not in my lanes. My mom and dad were there, and this girl who had gone away bowling with in 1996 to a nationals was there. And they were literally the only 3 people in the bowling alley cheering for me. And I went on a 5-bagger. I struck 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I got up in the 10th, and Stephen looked at me, and he said, "Throw a good shot." And I was like, "Oh, I think that means like throw a good shot. Like, I got this." And I got up, and I think I left a corner. It definitely wasn't a strike. I think I left a corner, and I came back, and I didn't turn around. At that point in time, I like to just stay. And I can remember he just grabbed me, and I was like, "Holy fuck, I just beat Lee Escott," which for the Newfoundland bowling world at that time was everything. So not only did I beat Lee Escott, I had a 133 and beat Lee. And then I went to that nationals. Matt Taransky was boarded with me. A guy, Matt Stewart from Manitoba, boarded with me, and the guy from Northern Ontario actually won senior boys boarded with me. That was one of my 4th place finishes. Actually, I didn't deserve anything. I think I had the lowest average in the tournament and just managed to squeak out wins.
Right. Back in the day, we used to have billets, right? You had to.
Yeah, we had a great time, and I got a bit of a temper. I got a pretty control now, but at 17 or 16, I had no control of it. And the Billet family, Matt Taransky won junior boys. The senior boy who won, and Matt Stewart finished second. So I was the only guy in the house who didn't win. And they made me a Mr. Congeniality medal. And now I'm like, that was a little passive aggressive, I think, but totally well-meaning and lovely.
Yeah.
But I still have the Mr. Congeniality medal with all my bowling medals.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, I think a lot of us had a temper back in the day. Right?
Yeah.
I know I definitely did. I've busted a knuckle at nationals and been threatened by my wife for divorce.
Yeah.
And
I got my first national warning that year. I threw 7 straight corners in a game against the guy who finished 3rd, and the computer system took the brunt of it in like the 6th or 7th frame of it.
Yeah, we could probably have a good full podcast about best blow-ups.
Yeah.
All right. Something
that'd be pretty cool.
That actually was wicked.
We'd have to get Herbert back on here, though.
I was about to say Mike Herbert would have to be on that one.
Yeah. We still officially don't know who put the hole in the Sherwood Bowl bathroom at.
We know now.
Do you know officially know?
It's Sean Smith for sure. I'm calling him out.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
Sean's not on this one. Don't worry.
No.
Yet.
Yeah. So then, Brad, obviously you started getting into the Open. Where did that start taking you into the Open years early on? Obviously, you bowled out of your bowling center. Did you play at Holiday all the time?
I always played out of Holiday. It's only after I moved home from Newfoundland I played not out of Holiday once for lots of bullshit reasons. Now that you think about it, but I bowled out of Holiday. My first year I actually didn't qualify, which was pretty tough for the ego when you're this kid who thinks you're all that. And honestly, it's probably one of the best things that ever happened. I made men's teams in 05, 06, and 07. We went 4th, 4th, 3rd. We just could not win a game in the step ladder. We couldn't get over the snide. Really, really strong teams. Some great bowlers. In 2005, we threw a 14-50 in the 3-4 game against BC. BC beat us. BC actually that year went all the way to the finals, and Kelly Garncross had a real tough go. He got up in the 10th, and Lawrence Faubert three-baggered on him, and Kelly whiffed twice on it. It was a punch or a chop. And so those are some of the early memories. Great memories in 08. I made a mixed team with my wife. And it's the only time I threw a shot to win a national tournament, or a provincial tournament, I should say. Bobby got up. Bobby and him were playing the men's team finals on 9 and 10, and we were down so much in the mixed first game that the boys went in to have a drink, and because they had won, and they were going to come out and watch our double life game. But the anchor bowler for the other team got up and went 5-hole. And I went bang, bang in 10 and 11. And all of a sudden we were like, holy shit, we just won. So winning the provincials with my wife was pretty cool. I think we qualified 5th at nationals. We just missed the step ladder. We had some struggles that week.
Who would have been on your teams in some of those 05, 06? You remember some of the names there?
Oh, on our teams?
Yeah, like who are some of
God. So me, Bob, and Mike were on 05 and 06. Me, Bob, Mike Maloney. 05 was me, Bob, Mike Maloney, Colin Smith, Scott Thurston, Tony Redmond. On paper, outside of the Alberta team in 2017, that's probably the best on paper team I've ever played on. Okay. Every guy on that team probably averaged 280 in their life at least once in the league. Nice. I was the rookie. I ended up getting benched halfway through the last day. Because I was terrible. And now that I'm like, I'd put me on the bench too and play those other guys. 06 was me, Bobby, and Mike, and Tony again. Guy Steve Walsh and Terry Butcher, who was actually a great bowler from PEI, who kind of disappeared from the world, was on it. We played at home that year. Central Alberta lost in the finals to Nova Scotia that year. Darryl Bailey played out of Nova Scotia. They had 3 guys make the All-Star team, I think.
Yeah.
07 was me, Bobby, Mel Osmond, former C5 president, Steve Peddle, a guy, Ken Collins, and now I feel bad because I'm forgetting who the other person on the team was. That's not like me. No, Mike didn't make it. Mike was on the next team. Me, Bobby, Mel, Tony, Kenny Collins, Steve Peddle. I had it. Me, Bobby, Tony Redmond. So those were all great things. The weird thing is not a lot of guys came out in my age range in YBC. So I was the young guy even up to like 26 or 27. And that there was no one who was around me bowling anywhere. Like Lee was always the young guy at St. Pat's, even though he was getting to be 28, 29 at those times. And I was still the young guy at Holiday up until kind of the 2010s kind of stuff.
That's crazy.
It sounds like you've got quite the memory.
Just rattling off names. I'm like,
remember my national.
I can't remember how many teams I've made. Like I have no clue.
Brad, I actually opened up the C5 website and you were rattling them off faster as I was opening up teams.
Right.
Like,
no, that's got nothing. I mean, would be get scary if you asked me for shots that I remember for the tournament, and I could. I could do it.
I remember watching the Lawrence National win. I think in 05. It was at Bonnie Doon, wasn't it, Daryl?
It was at Bonnie Doon, yeah.
When Daryl, when he threw the 3 strikes in a row to fit the clinch in nationals, that was pretty clutch. I remember that.
Yeah,
that was quite something.
I got to give a trip out to Scott Barber because he's had a couple of really good comments and wishing you well and all that stuff. And Scotty's got to take off now and go hit the gym. He's got to do his 3rd workout of the day. So we got to give a little hey Scotty there. So he's wishing you well. And then keep going. So I think we got to 2010. We're ready to keep going in the last decade of some of your open days and some of your open nationals. I mean, I think we read a stat. How many times have you won provincials and gone to a nationals in various?
So it's funny. Me and my brother debated this today. I think we agreed, and Ron, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we agreed I have 26 provincial wins and 28 national appearances. In 2012, I qualified 7 for the Masters, and a guy had some issues in getting suspended by bowling, which he should have been. And I got to go on the team. And I actually 2 times I got teams that I didn't win. I got medals out of. We went up. We finished second at the Masters to a powerhouse Ontario team. That was a great year for me. 2 guys I always wanted to play with were Lee Escott and Dave Hand Jr., and I got to play with both of them. There's a couple bucket list guys I've gotten to play with, luckily, in my career. And 2016, me and Bobby got cleaned out by Paradise Lane. Shane's listening to this right now. This killer to say.
we don't know who Shane is.
Yeah,
we don't know who Shane is.
Better. I like this. This works for me. And Mike Upshaw, who's a dear buddy of mine. I'm not sure whether this is the best man mug from his wedding or someone else's, but I was Mike's best man. He won the singles. And he was on our mixed team because we could buy into our open single. So he couldn't go. So Bobby knew the day of the open he was going. I was in my office at school at that point in time. I wasn't teaching. I was kind of in a mid position in like the middle of May. And my phone rings and it's Bobby. And I'm like, what's going on? And I call him and he goes, do you want to go to nationals? And I went, fuck off. And I was like, oh shit, my door is open. So I closed my office door and I'm like, well, it's time to go. And tough luck, Tony Redmond's business had some issues and Tony just couldn't go. So me and Bobby went up that year and we got a second to Schultze, Chris Hislop, Rose Gigliok. I think Michelle Hoyle was on the team. Oh, yeah. Mike LaCourcier was on it. Both teams were absolutely stacked to the nines. But so 2010, I wasn't going to play, and I played. Me and Bob played on a mixed team. We actually lost in the stepladder finals of provincials, not finals, semifinals to my wife's team, which, was super fun. Moving on. 20,
yeah. No hard feelings there.
Yeah. 2011.
Yeah.
2011.
Lost to her instead of you beating her, I guess, maybe, too.
No, not at all. That's ridiculous. 2011, I took a year off. 2012, I wasn't going to play, but funny story. We bowl Tuesday nights, but we populate our league with a few Friday nights, and obviously the beverages flow on those Friday nights. So I ended up at a Friday night in 2012 soaking my bowling shoe. So I switched to 2 house shoes, and I got up in 10th and threw a terrible ball and fell on my ass. And someone on the other team made a quip, and they were a St. Pat's bowler, and you're drunk and they're drunk, and therefore stupidity ensued. And I walked over to Bobby and I said, saw my name up for the open. And he was like, what? I was like, before I sober up and rethink this, sign me up for the open, because my plan was kind of to take off a bit of time for bowling and just focus on teaching, focus on that sort of thing. So in 2012, kind of the second generation of guys who played with me, Bobby and Mike, went away. Me, Bob, Andrew Murphy, Mike, Kenny Byrne and Justin Sullivan went up. We actually kind of blew double life against a stacked Hamilton team. Hamilton teams was Jeff Young, Mitch Davies, Mark Goulet, Eric Milne. I'm going to get the other 2 guys wrong, so I won't say it. Yeah, and we just blew double life. They beat us the second or third last game of the tournament, and they won their last 2 games, and we gave them away. And then we lost the finals to them the next day. We beat Quebec in the 2-3 game, and they just kind of wiped the floor with us. But they deserved to win that year. That's the last time I punched something, actually. That's when my temper got better. Paris Lanes in Gatineau had this soft aluminum-looking siding, and I was like, oh, I can punch this. The cinder block behind the soft aluminum siding was less fun. So I ended up bowling the Masters Nationals that year with a hand that so that's the last time I punched something in a bowling alley. I learned my lesson at the age of whatever that was, 28 or 29, I guess. And then it's 2013. That's then we hit the good stuff.
So I see Ryan said he posted. I've already got that video loaded up here. So if you guys wanted.
Did you share your audio this time, Dexter?
How do I do that?
Your brother, you can say about after the semifinal loss in 2010. You had a couple of pops, and then you went and joined the basketball provincials. You says, I'm out. Let's go play basketball now.
That's actually exactly how it happened. I was at the bowling alley, and I was kind of like, fuck this. I just don't want to be here watching other people play. after my wife's team finished her playing in the finals. Get that in there. And I did. I was like, okay, let's go play basketball now.
Yeah. I'm sure you were real helpful on the basketball court that day.
I was actually. There was a cop on the other team who was really good, and this guy looked at me and said, "Go guard him and don't let him score." And I can remember the cop kept chirping me. He was like, "You look so tired." I was like, "I am tired, but you aren't scoring right now."
But I'm also drunk. Good stories.
Those were the other two players on the team from Southern Ontario there, Brad.
Yeah, I knew John. I couldn't think of John Conti. I knew it was a Hall of Famer from Hamilton, and I thought it was one of the Talbots. I know Martin coached that team at provincials. That team went undefeated at provincials, actually in Ontario, which is just ridiculous to think about.
Yeah, that's unheard of.
Yeah,
Dexter,
we'll share this video here. Hopefully, Dexter shared his audio this time.
Well, there was only audio for like one portion, like one part of the last video. So okay.
So just tell me again, Brad. This is the semifinal from?
This is us winning the gold in 2013. So this is just mayhem. So get ready for chaos. You may turn this off like 2 seconds in.
Holiday Lanes 2013 men's final between Newfoundland men's and Alberta men's.
Yeah. Correct.
Who's the guys on the men's team again?
We are Mike Maloney, Adam Lohman, Andrew Murphy, Brad Glynn, Bob Osborne, Billy Woods, Coach Cal White. They are Dex and Tim, Matty Schultz, Sean Smith, Brett Matstone, Remo Nestor, and I think Casey coached that year, right?
Casey coached,
yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, this is the 10th, so all is done now. We won by 140 or so all's pretty much done.
And Bobby's up front there.
Yeah, this is me talking to Bobby about it being done or not done.
I still look at the leads 1 and 2.
Can't hear anything.
Like, look at that wall. Here's the worst thing. There's guys who love 1 and 2 because there's a bunch of 450s on it. I hate them. I hate those lanes. I hate that I had to win my gold medal on them because you say you don't like them and people kind of bitch at you.
It won't let me.
You didn't get it.
Yeah.
I will pull it up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know you got to win there. Good job.
Yeah. There's some great moments, and you guys were so gracious. I mean, I've played Matty for a long time, and for me, Matty's my age, but in a lot of ways, he was always that guy I looked to. Like I wanted to be as good as that, right? You want to have that. Dex will know when I talk about 2017, right? Having that fist pump, that Matty Schultz turn and pump. So our goal was always, whenever we played Edmonton, was that me or Bobby, whoever was on bottom, was just going to hold on to Matty, stay within 20 or 30 pins of Matty, and everyone else do the job to the other 4 guys. So for me, that was pretty special, and you guys were so great. And here's Matty now clearly leaning into me saying, let's throw the same time. That's Billy Woods up throwing. It was another great story. You could spend the whole podcast on Billy who lost an arm.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, in a farming accident. And here we are deciding to get up and throw as we're kind of getting it. Yeah. And there's my bald head. Like you gotta love being bald, and you just gotta live with it in these videos, don't you?
Oh yeah. That's a bowling trait. For
sure.
Oh, so you throw at the same time. Nice work.
Yeah, he leaned into me and he said, "Do you want to?" And I was like, "You know what? I'd absolutely love to." Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And there's the boys giving the thing. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So I want to know, how was the champions room after that for the pregame?
It was. I'm going to tell a story that not a ton of people know. So that I write little stupid notes to myself at bowling tournaments. I'm a bit of a head case when it comes to bowling. And I wrote notes to myself all the time. And Bobby always used to make fun of my notes. So that year I wrote a note each day. I have my notes, and I'm actually very concerned about where another note is right now. So here's my day 1 note: stay in the moment and feed the wolf. Day 2 notes: 1 game at a time and feed the wolf. Day 3 notes: take nothing for granted and feed the wolf. Day 4 notes: enjoy the moment and feed the wolf. And to kind of keep the boys loose, we'd get tight, and I'd show them the notes that they could basically make fun of me for a few minutes at some point in time in the day. But what I did, and Tim and Dex forgive me, was we're sitting in Bobby's room that day, and I was convinced, like, we just weren't losing. Like, this was just not happening. And I go back in time to 2005 when that BC team beat us with the 1450. Me and Bobby and Mikey Maloney roomed together. And after that day, me and Mikey told him, Bobby, we're going to get you this. We are going to get this gold medal. We are going to handle it. And it took 8 years. So I'm sitting in that room before we go to bowl. And it's a Holiday Inn little note. And I wrote a note to Bobby. And I put it in his shoe. And no one had any idea this note was there. So we win. I go home to shower and get cleaned up before we go celebrate. My phone rings. And I was like, yes, he's got it. And he goes, when did you put that there? I said this morning before we left, and the note said, we did it. And he went, what if we lost? I said, well, I certainly would have been the first person in that hotel room if we had lost. So Bobby actually had a great, there's a great mural of that whole event down at Holiday. And that's the only one of these that I don't have because he kept it. And I just, I thought about that note today. So we were great at losing. We would drink the face off the place. But that afternoon we got back to Bobby's hotel room and Bobby said, we're done drinking. And we were like, what? And he said, we need to remember getting the medals. So all the Newfoundland contingent shows up to party with us at like 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And we're like, the holiest people in the world sitting down watching TV. And then we got to the champions room and Al Hang, and Al, if you're watching, you know what, cool, you're going to have to live with this one. Al Hahn got mad at us because he told us we were abusing the how many drinks you could have in the champions room thing. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, Bobby, it might have been Andrew Murphy, because Andrew Murphy certainly could let people know what he thinks of him. Someone expressed their feelings to that about Al and kind of said, if you're going to be like that, we'll just lay the money down on the bar and we'll just take care of it. And we had a great time. The BC women won. Meg Gallicano's here, right? And she was a pickup for that team. And it was ridiculous. Victor Faubert, who's like the most sensible human being in the world, was in the room and was like, what is this? Who are these people right now?
And Victor doesn't drink. Yeah, no.
Yeah, right, and Victor ends up having to sit with us at the table. And I think I was right next to Victor and like, Victor, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I definitely talked your ear. Absolutely. But the victory room, Bob always talked about that because he won in 97 as a coach, but he never counted it, which lots of guys have different opinions. It was like the 1 year he didn't make a team and he goes and coaches a team and they win, but he just didn't feel like that was the same. And you know what? Maybe I'd feel the same way if it was my first. And he always, every year, was like, you just want to get in that room. He's like, they got free booze, right? Like Bobby needed free booze, first of all. We just kind of we had a time in there, and we do remember getting the medal. I do remember it. After that, definitely gets sketchy. But the great part about that year was it was almost a given. We had a great run. Those St. Pat's teams we played provincially were powerhouses, as evidenced by the fact they went 1 in 2014. In 2012 and 2013, in games that mattered at provincials, they didn't beat us once. They beat us the last game of the round robin both years, but we had double life locked up, and these teams were absolutely stacked, and we just had their number. And then nationals were out of paradise, and we didn't blow games. We always blew these tournaments by just blowing games. A team gets out on the shoot on you, and they got no like. I looked at I looked at our mixed competition in 2016, and we lost double life to Schultze and Mikey and them by like 8 or 9 points. And on the first day, we lost 2 straight games to Northwest Territories and Nova Scotia, right? And due respects to those provinces, me and Bobby on a mixed team together with KO, who made the All-Star team, should not be losing to those teams. And that year, we managed to avoid that hiccup. John Walsh, obviously 2-time national champion. We played PEI one game. And PEI got out of the shootout. So I'm playing John, who I got a huge amount. My brother just wrote Tell the PEI Story. Me and John Walsh, I just have a huge amount of respect for him. And we're playing PEI, and we got no life, and PEI's hanging with us, and I get pissed. And I go on like a 5-bagger against John Walsh. And on like the third one, I do a knee slide. And like not a little one, like it was big. And I come back, and there's 2 thoughts in my head. One, I just really disrespected a guy I really like. And 2, did I just piss off a guy who's now going to absolutely bomb this on me? And I went over to John in the middle of the game. And whether John did this to be a good guy or whether he just didn't want to bowl anymore, John took himself out of the game like the next frame.
Oh, wow.
and like I was burying him pretty good, but we didn't manage to blow a game in 2013 like we usually did. I can remember Andrew Murphy saved a game for us against either Northern Ontario or BC. I pulled a game out against Kevin Clark in the 10th on 1 and 2 in Paradise, and we were so bad for blowing those games we shouldn't blow. And that year we didn't do it. Dex and Tim, he threw a monster in the 2-3 game against whoever he played. Was it Northern Ontario or Quebec?
It was Quebec.
It was Quebec. And I got in the bowling alley and I was like, just keep throwing strikes, boys. Get all those strikes out of me.
Out in Alberta, we believe in 8-0 is a bad omen, right? And we went 8-0, and I'm like, son of a bitch, right? So it's like, And the thing is, when we played Holiday, we never played the whole event. We never played Holiday.
At all.
All we did is we played Paradise, and then we played the finals at a different center. So and we're like, it's kind of writing on the wall a little bit, but you still try your best, right? So Brad, you never talked about 2017. How did you enjoy playing up in GP?
Grand Prairie was terrible. It was awful. I had a great time. Oh my God. Shelby Crest told some of the funniest stories of my life. So I would start drinking at Kerry, you were there. I had some rough nights of that year, right? Because first of all, the bowling alley was brutal. Mike Tweedy ends up grabbing a judge of play because the judge of play ends up trying to grab one of his bowlers. It was a gang show. So the bowling was awful. But again, Gino's been a great guy to me in my career. Gino and me, 2009, I blew a stepladder game at the national singles. And the Open went 5-pit against John Walsh, actually. And I get back to the hotel, and Gino is waiting there. Or no, he wasn't at the hotel. I'd walked out the bowling alley, and I came back in the bowling alley. And Gino stopped me and kind of had one of those conversations that in the moment you just don't want to listen to. Right? Which Gino can do sometimes. But looking back on it, what did the hell did Gino Zebarth care about his 25-year-old from Newfoundland and having a tough go? So playing with Gino was huge for me. Shelby's one of these guys who always, whenever he played, he was dominant. He just didn't play a lot. Me and Carrie had played the year before at the Masters. So even though we sucked and were terrible, and the bowling itself is just, I'm pretty sure the last game when we were out of it, I made a 17 board adjustment and was like, oh, I found my line. Super. It was really great to see another experience. Alberta's the Cadillac of bowling provinces. Due respect to every other province. You always manage to do everything right. And it was, you do pictures at provincials. You do it was so cool to see the bowling community in Central and in Alberta in general are so welcoming to me. I had a fish that lived until we moved home that I had to carry around that stupid bowling tournament.
Because you moved to Alberta for a couple of years there, right?
I moved for a year. My wife's family lives in Edmonton, and we decided to give it a shot and move to Red Deer, honestly, only for we had a second kid. Not planned, not planned, but just not planned. We decided to move home, so we lived in Red Deer for that year, which was amazing. We loved Red Deer. It was fantastic.
Right. Yeah. Now, so that's a good little. You had played the Masters too. I want to get into Alberta. You played Masters here for Alberta. Was that 2017 you played?
Yeah, it was. And that was when I moved up, I had two goals. One was to do well in the cash tournaments, and I played well in Regina, but besides that, the cash tournaments were a bit of flop for me. I made 40 in Paradise. I missed the cut by 20 at TPC, and I made the 32s at Heritage. But I just struggle at them, right? You got to learn to play those tournaments as you all know better than anyone. And the other goal was to make the Masters team, right? The teams you guys in Southern Ontario put together, unless we get every guy who can play to come out, we're just not going to compete. Now, I wanted to show I could make that, and I wanted to play. There were some guys. Matty Schultz is another bucket list guy with Lee Escott and Dave Jr., who I mentioned earlier. I wanted to play with Matty. The first set was hilarious. It was at Bonnie Doon. I threw a 23-50 and finished 7th. And I was like, where am I at? Where am I after moving? What is this? And it's this sea of blue. And I think John Stone or Arndt had told me, you got to wear a Master shirt. And I'm there. And, of course, West Newfoundland's freaking color, red. Yeah. So this first set in Bonnie Doon, I'm in this red shirt, and there's just this sea of blue. And I'm like, what is this? Harvey Poksa, I think, was either on the lane with me or on the lane next to me. And I met him a couple times fast, and he was great to me that day. And I remember the last day qualifying for that. It was at a really tough house in Calgary. It's got lanes on both sides.
Poplar.
Top right.
And there wasn't many people who had a chance, and I needed to match a 2063 to count. And I threw like a 900 the first four. And Dex, you were on the lane with me, and I got like totally in my head. And when I get in my head, it can either go great or it can go bad. And I popped like a 1250 or like a 1200-ish for the last four to have it not count by 5. And Eric Christensen was over trying to catch me and ended up not catching me by 14. And that for me, Freddie Toffelmeyer, another Easterner. We were leaving the bowling alley that day after we did all the BS that you got to do to straighten away. Freddie Toffelmeyer came up to me and was like, I bet you Alberta never thought there'd be a guy from Nova Scotia and a guy from Newfoundland on the same Masters team representing them. And then, of course, Freddie went to Nationals and was just a buzzsaw.
Yeah, he was incredible.
So then you guys went to Nationals. Where was Nationals that year for you guys?
Regina.
And so who was on that team? Let's hear there.
Dex, you got it?
So it was me, you, Freddie, Matt, and Brad Wilton.
Brad Wilton, okay.
Yeah.
And plowed through the teams, or how did the Nationals go?
It was the biggest emotional roller coaster of a tournament that you could ever imagine.
Yeah, it was crazy because so much went on.
Yeah, and I mean, there's my relationship had just come to an end. Brad was having some really bad stuff going on with one of his students' parents back home.
Oh fuck, I forgot about that. Yeah, I had a student's parent who had taken their own life. Literally, I was driving to Regina across central Alberta, and I got a call and had to pull over. Yeah, geez, Dex, I forgot that.
Yeah, it was, then I mean, Matt and Danny had their stuff going on, and then Brad. I won't go too deep into that. Brad Wilton was there, and Kelsey Wilton was back home, and she was pregnant with Reed and could have left at any moment.
Yeah, that's why I didn't drive with you. We drove as a team, but I didn't drive with him because my wife was due. Literally, she was due. So I had to have my own car in case I literally had to leave.
Yeah, oh, exactly. Casey continually carried his shoes to the lanes every day because he was our coach and our emergency spare. And there was every single day there was a possibility of going in, and it was an emotional roller coaster. But
how'd the bowling go?
Yeah, it was quite the experience.
The bowling was unreal for me. It was funny, right? Because I'm going there. Me and Bobby always flipped the anchor position. When I first started bowling with him, I was the 4-hole, he was the 5-hole, and then as it evolved, we'd switch about halfway through the tournament. He'd always start in the 5-hole, and then about halfway through the tournament, he'd go, "Okay, that's enough of this," and he'd put me down there. So there had been no discussion, and there ended up being a breakdown in Golden Mile that made us like 45 minutes late.
First game.
Casey told us he had two lineups in his mind, and one of them had me, Ambadam, and Schultze in the 4-hole. And it's funny because if Casey had told me that, I'd have been like, "No way, Casey." Right? Matt Schultze is the guy who bowls anchor for Alberta when he's on the team at first. But the lineup that was there at first was myself, Brad Wilton, Dex, Freddie, and Schultze. And Casey went, "That was the other line I thought of. It's the lineup that's there. That's the lineup we're going with." And he made one lineup change for the whole tournament. He switched Dex and Wilton at some point in time in the tournament, and that was the extent of lineup moves made.
Yeah. It went up in like alphabetical order.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah, and that's
it had nothing to do with anything. It just happened to be that way.
And us in Southern Ontario, we really ran away from people. They got us the first two times we played them, and then the last game of the third day, we played them. And Nathan Cooper got up in 10 against Schultze, and Nathan had the hammer, and Nathan let Matty go first. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" Because first of all, Matty's going to throw it, and second of all, we were a very energetic team, so you were gonna know he threw it. And Matty threw the first one, and Nathan popped, and Matty got a chop, and then Matty had to spare the chop for the win. And Dex actually, I remember after, talked about wishing we had a picture of us kind of all leaning on each other as Matty threw the chop.
Yeah, we were all within like a foot and a half of the end of that approach.
Yeah.
And now Matty would have known that he needed to throw the chop, obviously, or whispering,
Oh,
saying, or everybody knows that you need to know this, Matt.
yeah, and that team was ridiculous. Like we had 3 games that tournament where we could have played 4 guys and still beat the team we were playing.
Well, yeah, we had the record for the quietest like 1550 ever thrown.
Yeah,
Just pure silence. I think it was in Glencairn or North.
It was against Northern Ontario on the last lane. It was in Glynn.
And they were so mad at us because the game was over and Matt was still waiting for his bowling ball to come back. Like, just throw the ball, Matt. We have
more than 500 points here.
Yeah. That was an incredible team.
For me, it was really neat because we have 3 or 4 guys who match that level. But to play on a team where there was no nerves, because it was a house backing up behind me. I hadn't bowled leadoff since like YBC. Was very cool.
Yeah, something different, right? To play leadoff, you're like, sure, go play there, and you got 4 guys behind you that are going to support you no matter what you do. Yeah,
you're a great leadoff though. I'm surprised you don't play leadoff more often.
Well, we have Mike Maloney, who just was, in his own right, just ridiculous at it.
Yeah, that's totally fair. But you throw lots of strikes and you're high energy and you get things pumped up right away. And you were a great lead, that's for sure.
Yeah.
From a Masters, did you also play a lot of Masters out of Newfoundland? And you still do?
Yeah, I played singles 3 times. I think I played team 4 or 5 times. I love the Masters. I love not having the pull. I love 5 guys on the lane playing against each other. It's tough for us, right? On a team, I got a silver medal, and that's the only time we've even kind of come close to medaling out of here. I can remember Dex was so happy that day because I knew I was moving home, and Dex actually said, like, I wanted to win this with you because I know how hard it'll be, right? For us to put a team together here that can do it. But I just love that 5 guys on the lane. I prefer the singles format. It's match play. It's
singles is
tough. Right, it's kick each other's ass. It's not just throw high scores, which is great for the Open, but I much prefer that every 5 minutes you got to throw a shot or you're screwed, kind of deal. So I love the Open, but I think the Masters sets up a little bit more of a deeper competition. First of all, because provinces like Alberta and Ontario are putting together these teams that are just ridiculous, and second of all, you got to throw. There's no gimme moment where you get to come out and have a breather.
Fair. I had the opportunity to play against you in. Well, it was 2019. I guess that's been quite some time now, I guess, at our Masters. And Master singles is always really tight. I mean, with the Open singles, you can have your pinfall and kind of run away with it and kind of have a little bit of a spread. And with Master singles, it always seems like 6 people have a chance to make step ladder going into the last day, right? So it was always, I think, going the last 2 games, it was within a game making a step ladder. So it's always tight making Master singles.
Sorry, I don't know. What's the format of Master singles?
Master singles. So there's 8 other provinces. So we play each other 7. There's 7. Well,
3 times.
3 times. Yeah.
21
games. Play format, and then the top 4 make the Master or make the step ladder. Sorry,
top 3.
Which is also great because you got a medal when you go to play. I've played Master singles 3 times. And the 21st game has either got me in or out of the step ladder all 3 times.
Yeah.
Right. And now so it's a match play, so it's basically win-loss record.
Correct. Yeah, it's technically 2 points, 1 point and 0, 2 for the win, 1 for the tie, but it's just straight up head-to-head.
I love that. So have you played Open national singles?
Yeah, I played Open national singles in 09 and 15. In 09, I qualified 3rd. And Johnny Walsh took me out on a run. He ended up beating me, then Mitch Geary from Nova Scotia, and he took Martin Talbot twice to win his 2nd nationals. And 2015, it was at Nebs, which was I played team and singles and then throw 300. So we don't need to go back to that one. That was a tough one. And the field that year was ridiculous. Greg played Brad Bones in the finals. Who had beaten I want to say Eric Villeneuve or Terry Little. Ian Sylvester was there, Giggs was there and didn't qualify. Like the field was was kind of a murderer's row kind of year, and it was just a tough year. I finished 6th or 7th or something. But
what do you prefer, the Masters or the Open singles? I guess that's a good question for all of you guys. The format at the national championships, one being a pinfall to the qualify and then one being a match play. Brad, what do you prefer?
It's funny. I think I would do better in the pinfall because I think I could get in my own head, but I'd rather that Masters every day of the week, even though I think in the long run, the Open would be where I'd get more traction.
but because it's a match play, you'd rather play that. Tim, what about you?
Absolutely.
I think I probably do better in the open. My masters, I don't have a great track record, but I have my
Silvers at nationals for the Masters is not a bad track record.
And so, Daryl, you have to understand. So you know how the step ladder for the singles work for open. For Masters, when the 2-3 play, it's a 3-game. It's not total pinfall. It's a 1-game match. And it's best 2 out of 3, I guess you can say.
Okay, so a second and third do that in the step.
And then when you go to the first, when you play 1, it's best 2 out of 3 as well. So when I so when I played, like I beat Tyson Nelson here, I whooped them all best 2 out of 3. I say that because I beat him 5-0. And Brad was there to watch it because it was a running joke. And then I played Cody Laycock, and I beat him like 360 to 2 something, and then he went 360 against me.
Okay.
So there's only so much you can do about it, right? So it's a little bit more. If you have a bad game, you can wipe it out, right? So Masters is good that way, I think. Where the Open is. Yeah, I guess it all depends. If you're the first seed, you still have that double knockout, right? So
yeah. What about you, Dex?
I mean, for singles, you know what? I can't really say because I haven't played either.
Right.
But that being said, for I kind of feel like they have them backwards. You know, I feel like the Open should be the one where it's match play all the way through, and Masters should be the one where it's pinfall. You do all your qualifying for Masters all based on pinfall, and you're qualifying for the Open but initially, but once you get to provincials, it's all match play and stuff too. And so I don't know. I feel like they're backwards, but that's just my opinion. I don't have a preference, but I feel like those two need to flip.
How about you, Kerry?
I always prefer match play. I think pinfall or whatever, that's all good and fine. But when it comes down 1-on-1 and you can throw the strike over top the other person, I feel that's a lot more intensity involved. I feel that's more competitive than running away with a tournament because of pinfall.
I feel like with C5, I feel like the singles format's based off of schedule and time frame. I think if I want to, don't quote me on it because I don't know, but I feel like that's what it is, right? Because you X amount of time, you see your time, your lane draw. With Masters, I think it's just Brad. We both had the opportunity to play Masters one way where we had 2-on-2 on each set, where we play at 9:00 in the morning. We're done by 11. We can have our drinks. We can finish and follow everybody and do all that and have a great party the rest of the day. And then we played in Gatineau, and Gatineau were an hour a game because we paired each other up, and we had two provinces on each one. It was absolutely painful. And I think that's where the detriment of the pinfall match play was, because it was totally different, right?
Yeah,
I
wish
on your end though it might have worked well with you, because how the match play works in Masters is Alberta gets to play, like I was paired up with Jen, so like my tournament singles gets to play with each other the whole time against, like, say, Newfoundland's tournament singles. Unfortunately, Brad and Megan had to drop out because of an injury, so normally it'd just be 2 against 1, so he'd be bowling by himself the whole time. But when we went in Gatineau, it was 4 against 3, so he at least had a fortunate of bowling with somebody and at least keeping the time and the rhythm there, right?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I really wish, and I'm sure some of them are listening, like, I wish they'd consult the bowlers, because I haven't heard a bowler. The argument for making the Masters the 4-on-4 was it gives people a longer time. I haven't heard more than 3 or 4 people who've actually bowled Master singles say they wanted that change, right? I think the 2-on-2, right? The 2-on-2 makes it what it is, because literally every 20 minutes, 30 minutes if you're bowling Weber, you're literally throwing a shot that mattered. Like the last day in 2011, I managed to qualify second that year. every 20 minutes, it was Bobby Torville, Sly Bercier, Daryl Wood, Johnny was there. Like every 20 minutes, you're throwing shots in 8 and 9 against those guys. Like we'd all die for that. Like that's a bowling paradise, right outside of the stress and the grief and the fact you're not allowed to have a drink while you're doing it.
Right? We made it 80 minutes in the first mention of Adam Weber on this. What about Mitch Davies? 81.
Oh, why'd you
Anyways, we want to move on to another subject, but first, before we do, if people in the comments that are listening, just throw out your what do you prefer from a national singles format, either the open format or the Masters format, just to sort of see a show of comments coming out there. That'd be good to see. We'll chat about them as they come up. Yeah. But I think a good time to transition, Brad. We want to chat a little bit about it. You had mentioned earlier, getting into your own head and dealing with some of those emotions that come up in the course of a play. And even talking about having, anxiety and from a formal standpoint. Can you talk a little bit about that as some of the challenges you've dealt with, obviously from a mental health and, knowing when you're having an anxiety attack, just to sort of share some input on that side of things for us?
Absolutely. Just to contextualize a little bit, because it's a big issue. I've had a bunch of concussions, and I had my last one playing basketball, ironically enough. I'm going to get it wrong. Ron, correct me. In the somewhere around 2011, 2012, I suffered my last concussion playing basketball. The guy pushed me against a wall, and I took a rough one. And I ended up with some pretty rough generalized anxiety disorder. And the first time it showed up in bowling was 2016, actually. We were playing provincials and Bobby wanted to make the switch from me to 4 to 5. I was averaging like 295 for the tournament. And, we're guys, right? And we're idiots, so we don't want to name that shit. And I just kind of say, like, Bob, I don't think it's a good idea. And he doesn't listen to me because I didn't give him a reason why it was a good idea. And he switches me and I go from averaging 295 to literally, I think, like 210 for the tournament. Like it got rough. So that year going to nationals, when we ended up on the mixed team together, Peter Rosser, who was coaching, I actually let her know. I didn't want her to tell anyone because, we're guys and we're idiots, so we're embarrassed about that stuff, even though there's no reason to be. I said, Petra, things are rough. Try to keep me out of the anchor position. She, as a coach, has a responsibility of the team. I ended up in the anchor position in that tournament by like game 5. I don't begrudge her. I actually threw some shots that tournament. But it was a real struggle. My year in Alberta was really rough. Me and my dad actually driving home from the TPC. My dad had come up the TPC weekend. We had a pretty deep conversation and some pretty big disagreements. He was kind of like, why are you doing this if it gets you? And if you saw my scores from the Adam Open and from the TPC, it's like a 2200 set with a 162 on the board. And I still do it. I threw a 130 something this year. And all you can do is laugh it off in the moment. But it kind of became known that I had it after that 2018 Masters, because I came home from it. And I was playing 2-on-1 because the last day it was that Megan had injured herself, and I was playing Kyle Young and Jenna Ablis. And I got out of the chute super hot that day. I'd thrown like a 350 against Cody. I'd backed it up pretty good the next game. And of course, the problem with a mental health issue is once your emotions get hot, positive or negative, it's sneaking up on you. So I can feel it coming. And the word I use is quicksand. It's out of the Replacements movie with Keanu Reeves. What a great, terrible football movie. And I could just feel the quicksand getting me. My dad is playing on the seniors team. And I'm like, are you done? Because will you get here? Not Mike Upshaw. Shane is up there. Great buddy. You're trying to get reinforcements, but I don't get any reinforcements really. And I'm playing Kyle Young and I've kind of got him out. And then Kyle starts running a little bit. And I just feel it. It's coming. Yeah. And Jana, God love her, what a wonderful human being, kind of comes up to me halfway through the game because Megan's not there. And it's kind of like you seem off. And in that moment, you don't want anything. So it happened. The whole rest of the day was a train wreck from BC. Who was BC that year? Matt Harms. Matt Harms wastes the floor with me the next game from BC. He throws like a 400. And the rest of the day is a wash. I played Ty Nelson in the last game. Right? I beat you. But you got in, so give it up. Ty Nelson beats me in the last game and knocks me out. But I go home, and I'm a teacher, right? I deal with kids in my life. And if I had a kid who was going through an issue and didn't admit it, I'd be like, dude, like, do this. And I'm lucky. I've taught from kindergarten to grade 12, so I've seen every edge of the spectrum. So I make this Facebook post about it. and it kind of blew up a little bit in the way the Facebook posts do when you make posts about stuff. And it's so hard because there's a couple things about it, right? Like I see a counselor, I've seen a counselor for 5 or 6 years, and the one thing you hate is those people who get a little tough in their head for a minute and try to claim it as something that it's not. And then there's also the other side of that. You don't want to tell someone what the reality is. But there are no words to explain that I'm bowling in a league where I'm a 260 average on a Tuesday night 2 months ago, and I throw a 136. And I'm 2 frames into the game, and I know the fucking 136 is coming, right? Yeah. And you don't want to talk to anyone about it. You don't want to deal with it. But, right, like I'm smart, I'm good at bowling, but there's no turning off that side of it. And I look at guys like Patterson and those guys, I think about a Jimmy Head who loves talking about the mental side of bowling anytime I've talked to him. And I think about the fact we don't admit those things, right? We don't admit it. And there's that normal, hey, let's prep for competition, and that pressure of that getting up and having to throw the shot. Deck's thrown on TV, with a possible 450 on the board, and the stress of that, Kreitzy winning, 2 cash tournaments in a row, and the ridiculousness of that. And then when it goes to that next level of how do you know and how do you help someone, and I always think to the fact that the best thing I could have done that day was looked at Jan Albalis and gone, Jan, I know I'm not okay. Yeah, like I'm in a rough spot right now, because what happens is that snowballed for me, right? I actually didn't go watch Tim and Ty and Cody play the next day. I holed up in my hotel room. I went to the banquet. I stayed at the banquet for, the minimum amount of time I could have stayed at the banquet. I left the banquet. My flight wasn't out till late the next day. I holed up in my hotel room for the next day. And then all of a sudden a bowling tournament is after turning into an actual problem, right? And that's the reason, as a bowler, you got to name it. And then on the competitive side, you got to figure out a way to deal with it and get through it. And obviously it's a big serious topic, but I want to have good mental health, but I also want to get up in the 10th frame and bury Dex Wiseman when I'm playing him. Right. Yeah. And I want to be able to solve both those problems at the same time. So that's a lot there, Daryl, to say to it, but it is a big topic. So I wanted to give it kind of some justice as I unfolded in my head there.
And I appreciate that. I think, what's important for, me and people to realize, it's not just the self-doubt as far as, I'm not going to be able to win this game, or I'm throwing a shitty shot. You're starting to get mad at yourself. You're like, I'm not this and that. This is a bigger issue. You're dealing with something that is coming from inside, that is building, like you said, with quicksand. That this is not me just throwing a shitty shot. This is my body, my brain. Having an attack on me that I can or can't control, that is beyond my physical ability to throw the ball.
Yeah, because that day I was throwing rockets, and I knew I was throwing rockets. I could feel it. Like if I could have turned my head off that day, I was buzzed on those 7 games, but I felt it. And it's the worst thing, right? It's that metacognition of, once you know you're feeling it, but you don't have someone to help you get out of it, right? Because who's going to help me get out of it? My dad, maybe, my wife, my brother, only those people who really know you. It was game over. And the worst part about it was I knew it was game over. Yeah. Right. I'm going from shooting what would have been like a 320 average for a day to, buddy, this is going to get ugly, and this is going to get ugly real fast. And when I look at myself and think of myself as an educator, what I get mad at is that I didn't say to Jana in that moment, and I called them out in a positive way when I wrote the post that, like, I'm really thankful that they reached out. Carl's such a great guy, this big giant fella. Awesome. And he came up and I hadn't said anything. He came up to me after he kind of went on a run the end of that game to beat me. And, he came up and was kind of like, stay with it, bug, get through it. And the goodness of the bowling community, Bobby, going back to Bobby always talked about the fact we're in bowling alleys and we all got our wallets in our bowling bags. Right. And there's just this assumption that there's 500 people in a bowling alley with wallet, and no one's going to take anything. Right? And the fact that in that moment, if I had said, no, I'm having a tough time, Doug McCaw's there watching Taylor, there's these elite bowlers and these legendary bowlers who someone would have been like, okay, Brad, let's just take a moment, right? Let's realize where we're at. And that's whatever I say to people. Like, when you don't say it to someone can't help you.
Yeah.
And that's when it truly causes problems. Because for me at that tournament, it legitimately caused problems. And that TPC on the drive back down from Edmonton down to Red Deer on the QE2, Dad said, "Why are you still doing it?" And my answer at the time, I only had Sebastian at the time, was because I want to tell Sebastian that it beat me 9 times. And I'm going to get emotional saying this. I managed to get through Bobby, and I'm fucking going here. I want to be able to tell Sebastian that I got it sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. I threw a 2380 or 2350 to win our provincial masters a few years ago. And I knew I needed it because of the format of our masters. I knew the number I needed. And I want to be able to tell him there were some days it was going to get me, and I got it. But we got to be able to speak about it, and for guys especially, right? We got this machismo bullshit in us, right? Tim messaged me yesterday so graciously saying, like, if you don't want to be on because Bob died, I get it. If you want to come on after we talk about Bob, I get it. And being honest with that, and naming, that Tim named, like, we're all big feelers. We get it, right? And we're just not good at that. We just suck at it, frankly.
Yeah. But that's why I think it's so important that you come on here and you talk about it, even if it is a difficult conversation. It's something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's something that people need to be able to talk about. And like you said, if you don't talk about it, it just gets worse. But bowling is such a highly emotional sport. It's a highly stressful sport at the upper end of it, and it can all be a catalyst to, I watched it happen to Daryl Wood.
Absolutely.
And it was hard. It was hard watching.
It was heartbreaking what happened to Daryl. Like, we were at the Masters. I think it was in BC, right, Kerry? Right now. Like, it's just heartbreaking. And one of the worst things about generalized anxiety and depression is what's one of the worst triggers for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do we do when we go to bowling tournament? And there's nothing wrong. And there's nothing wrong with any of it, right? Me and Lynn always talk about. Lynn always likes the fact that I seem to manage to balance it, which Bobby needed in his life. But you just do it. So you're not sleeping right. You got these huge emotions, and you step off the lanes, and you're having it. So something I've had to do, and my counselor has done this with me, is like, Brad, you may love those drinks, but you got to wait till Saturday night to really have that good time. Which is hard because I'm going up and seeing you guys for like the first time in a year, the first time in like 3 years. The next time we get to do it, all I want to do is sit down and have some drinks with you and do it. But then you're setting yourself up for failure. So listen to those people who know what they're talking about, right?
100%.
So what are some of the things that you could share as far as, when you realize it's starting to happen? Is there, what do you do to get out of it or recognize it and deal with it? Some of the coping mechanisms, what are those sort of triggers that you can notice that and sort of help other people say, when you notice this happening, this is what I'm doing. I'll go take a step back, I'll have a sit down or whatever. So share with us some of the insights on how you cope with it.
Absolutely. I'm going to speak as an educator and someone who's got some grief background now, right? I know it's coming when I get hazy. So I was playing Kyle, and I could feel like all of a sudden everything, it's like you're watching yourself, right? And I knew then, I was like, oh, shit, right? And at the time, I didn't have the skills to do it. And right now, I'd fail at it lots of times too, right? And you re-engage those moments by using your senses. So as an educator, I do this with my 5-year-old kids when they get mad. Find 5 things you can touch, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell. We have other senses. Whatever the other senses are, truly, but truly, it's re-entering you in that moment. And such a great, you go back to Patterson, those articles he write, which, you love sometimes and you laugh at sometimes, that mindfulness, right? Because what happens when you get anxiety is I'm out of the moment. And what happens, right, is you do it once and it doesn't work, right? Just like the first time you make an adjustment, it doesn't work. So you go, okay, this isn't for me, right? And you find that peace within yourself, and you accept that you're not going to go from 100 back to 0. 100 back to 70 or 100 back to 60 is success. And that's all I say to people, right? You bring yourself to the moment. You know, Kathy has a post here. It's called grounding, mindfulness, awareness. And as an educator, I'm much more comfortable with that because it's something I preach in my classroom. But use your senses. You know, something I don't encourage, and this is a mental health comment. I'm not a mental health professional, so I'll say that is we use you know, sitting down and going somewhere else in a tournament, right? Because you're in stress, get your head. That can hurt anxiety because I'm already all over the place, and I'm also in the bowling alley. So then I'm putting myself somewhere else. So now I'm 3 places.
Well,
I'm all over the place. I'm in the bowling alley, and I'm somewhere else.
Well, and then if you go back to a quiet spot and then you move back out into the noisy, stressful environment, that's got to be sensory overload again.
And it's killer. And my best time succeeding at it was, and sometimes you need to break your bowling rules. So I threw a great set to win singles one year knowing I needed it, and Bobby wasn't there, and this just fits. And what I did is I put myself in a space where I was bowling with Bobby because I could handle that. So I'd get up and I go, okay, what would he be saying? What would he be this? Shane would be telling me now that I'm telling Bobby stories again, but he can shag off.
Shane who?
Yeah, I like it. I love this. And truly at that moment, and Daryl, I love how you're setting this up. My first responsibility at that moment in time is to myself as a person. Right? Bowling needs to become secondary, but in the competitive sense, to keep it a little bit focused, what I do to help me as a person is going to help me as a competitor, right? So it's about finding those safe places for yourself that you can do it, and safe people. You know, there are people I can think of in bowling circles who I would just know, like, this is shit right now. But you know what? Me and Melissa Manor have been buddies for 15 years, despite the fact I drive her absolutely crazy with my antics. So I'm going to go stand next to Manor, right? Or you know what? Mike Maloney's been in the pit with me in the most tense moments in the world. So when I threw the 136 at League, I never got out of it. But Mike Maloney and a guy, Mike Upshaw, who are great buddies of mine, where I'm 1 and 2, and I just slowly drifted myself over there. Yeah. So that I was with people who were going to talk to me about stuff. I knew they knew what was going on. Did they name it? No. Why? Because we're guys and we're idiots. But they know, right? Right. But they know. So they keep chatting with you. They don't make it awkward. They don't anything. And you got to take care of yourself as a person. And then when you think of the competitive side, which is kind of the bowling thought, that helps. And you need to accept that success gets a different definition at that moment in time. Right? Yeah. Success is saying I handled my anxiety well, not I managed to beat that person. And as competitors, we don't like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I like what you've done there. You know, like even Kathy's got some good comments here.
She absolutely does. Yeah, she's listed the things. Thank you, Kathy.
You know, grounding yourself, and I think that's important. That, you know, you're grounding yourself by going and walking over to, you know, like you said, Melissa, or to Mikey, or to somebody. Just sort of, even just being beside them allows your mental state to sort of start to be grounded, and they can feel that, and you know that. So I think that's important. I think probably a lot of people would do that without recognizing what's going on, but they're walking over to a comfort person. You know, I'm having a shitty night and I don't need Dexter to tell me what I'm doing or how I'm doing it. I just want to go over by him, right? Or Tim on a match play. I just want to go by them just because it's a support person that you can be, you know, grounded by. Okay, get myself focused again and let's get bowling. So, yeah.
And what's great about that is we do that in tournaments naturally, right? We played Southern Ontario in 2017, the last game of the second last day, and I was like 35 in the third. And Casey came up to me and went, Brad, you're trying to play our game right now. And what he meant was I'm trying to play the way Alberta would play in this moment. And he said, you need to play the way you play in these games. And what that meant was if I want to do a knee slide on every single strike I throw and piss Matty Houston off, then you know what, Matty Houston, you're going to have to live with it, and we'll deal with it when we sit down for a beer later on. Yeah. So we naturally do these things as competitors, and those great coaches do that for you. And there's a reason it works in that, because it's a high stress moment. It's just that awareness to know. And my biggest thing is it's so hard to know when it's coming, right? And I think of Daryl Wood, and it was
sad.
Yeah, it would have been 2016, right, Kerry? Because it was the year before I moved away, right? And like I think it was Chelsea, and some people tried to take care of him. And you're just a great guy, a great competitor. And what I hate is we all know better, but that judgment, you know, you heard people say really idiot things that week, right? and like give it up. Because first of all, no matter what he did, and I don't think he did anything wrong.
No.
Dude's one of the best bowlers in the province, in the country, and he just threw like 120, 120. And had to come out of a tournament, right? Like, just
I don't know the back history there of
so
again, just got into his head and just had it.
It was even worse. Like,
yeah,
I don't think he broke 100. I don't think he even broke 100.
Terry's got some comments.
Yeah, he did. He had like, I want to say it was less than 50 in the fifth. Obviously he wasn't with it. You could tell he was having a big anxiety issue and stuff like that. He ended up having to be pulled from the tournament, and Larry Ellert, I do believe, came in and replaced
Johnson.
Larry Johnson, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. And like Brad had said it earlier, booze may have been a contributing factor, right? Daryl's a great guy, great competitor for a lot of years, and everything kind of hit him at once, and it was a very rough moment. And like Brad said, a lot of people didn't react the right ways, and it was a sad moment for bowling and competitive bowling, especially seeing a great person like that go down, and the way he was treated, I think, was pretty wrong too. But
Daryl's been he's been a friend of mine for a long time, and I was there spectating.
Yeah.
And I got to see most of it unfold, and I got to see Daryl show up at the bowling alley when he was supposed to be bowling, and had a good chat with him, because I mean there isn't a lot for spectating, and man, I've never felt worse for a person. It was heartbreaking watching the guy shaking like a leaf even after, and man, he's only really starting now to be competitive again, and gotta take care of yourself. Gotta take care of yourself mentally too.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people got to take something away from that. As many as the personal side goes outside of bowling, they're still a human being. They're still part of the bowling community. They're I know he has a backstory, and people can figure it out on their own. We're not going to divulge in any of that stuff, but still a human being, still had a big anxiety problem, and I'm glad he's finally getting out of it. He seems like he's in a great spot. He played really well at the TPC last time we were allowed to have one. He is showing signs of great play again, and I can't wait to face him on the lanes again.
Yeah, he is one of the most talented people I've ever met. He's just terrible with shots.
We're talking about this, guys. I mean, we're going to wrap up this sort of segment of it and move on to something different. But mental health is very important. I'm glad that a lot more people are talking about it. Brad, certainly appreciate you talking about your own experience. Most important thing I think you said is, make sure somebody knows. Talk to somebody about it. There's plenty of stuff going on. There's plenty of people before us that have had the issue and dealt with it. Maybe we just never named it, but it's okay to name it going forward. Talk to somebody. Nobody should hold judgment, treat you any different. And it's definitely probably commonplace in the bowling world that we just don't know about it. So share your stories. It's a bigger subject that we can talk about down the road. We're simply, the anxiety side, but there's many other facets to the mental health that is important to everybody. So on you for that.
2017 was a crazy year for us at Masters, and that was one thing that I was always grateful with, was that you were actually completely open and honest with us about that.
Yeah, I forget that. I wasn't I?
You absolutely were. And you know what, with everything else that was going on that weekend, I don't think any of us were ever phased, but thank you for your trust in us, honestly.
I'm going to give one shout out, because I know you're getting near it. Is Wilton helped me so much that week, right? Because I knew Dex, I knew Schultze, I knew Freddie, I knew Casey, and Wilton was the only guy I hadn't really competed against, because Edmonton and Central always seemed to come out on Calgary, so I hadn't seen him at the Open. And me and Wilton roomed, and both our wives are like ready to burst the children out of him, or for some reason we're in Regina playing a bowling tournament. And I remember now, I shared that with you guys, and going back to the room, you're embarrassed, and you just got a name that you are, even though you shouldn't be. And me and Wilton to just sit in the night and just chat, and he was it never changed anything, and that makes it okay, right? So I always say that, right? As a person, you have a responsibility to take care of yourself, but receivers also need to just be humans with the person.
Yeah.
Right? You just you give them dignity. You know, Kerry talked about it, right? You know, just give them dignity. Who cares what they did, right? That doesn't matter right now.
Yeah.
Well, just talk about it, right? That's what it's all about, is talk to people about it. Brad, quickly for you, what's left with bowling? Obviously, you're still young. You got a lot of years of a career left. What's bucket list? Are you coming out west to play WCBT events? More masters, more opens. What do you want to finish with?
It's funny. I've emceed a bunch of NL5 banquets, and I've actually made the joke that the younger generation in Newfoundland are going to be like, "Yeah, that Brett Glynn guy was apparently pretty good, but he's just the voice of bowling in Newfoundland."
He's Dale Bradley.
Yeah, nice. I want that master singles bad. I've been snake bit. Moans beat me from one end of the bowling alley to the other in a 1-2 game. Sly knocked me out one year, so I finished fourth. Ty knocked me out one year, so I finished fourth. I want that master singles. I left Holiday Lanes for a year. I don't regret it. I left for reasons that I know match my principles. It's really tough to know that would have been the last year I played with Bob. But I don't regret it. He and I had conversations. We've had conversations since then. I want to get back to a nationals with a Holiday Lanes men's team. It's got Mikey Maloney on it. He's pretty much it. I'll take anyone else on the team. I want me and Mikey Maloney to go back to a nationals. And you know, we got open teams that can compete with anyone, but I want to get back to a nationals wearing Holiday Lanes wears black, or Metro 3, or whatever the frig they call them now. I want to wear a black bowling shirt at a bowling tournament sometime soon. That with what's happened the past 2 days with Bob dying, wearing a black bowling shirt at a bowling tournament is the extent of my bowling goals right now. I want to get into coaching at some point in time. I've got 2 little boys. I don't want them to bowl while they got to throw 2 hands because they have my temper. So I can't imagine them being 130 averages with 2 hands and then going, "Hey, pick it up with 1 hand." So me and my last story, because I know you're on time. Me and Mike Upshaw, who's a great friend. He has 2 little boys, and I have 2 little boys. So our joke was always it'd be me and Mike and our 2 kids each, and that'd be the 6, and Bobby was going to be the coach. So that's a tough one to say right now. I had totally not thought of that until right now. Playing with one of the boys when they get older would be cool if they do get into bowling. So yeah, I want that Masters gold. I want to play in a black shirt again, and then playing with one of the boys. It'd be those are about it right now.
Good. Well, you lots of time left, but you go get it.
Yeah.
Last topic that we want to talk about a little bit is obviously related to COVID, the restrictions. Obviously bowling centers aren't open right now. The banter back and forth with the 5-pin U guys and talking is, what's happening out there? What are our national governing bodies doing? What are our provincial governing bodies doing? What's the communication out there? I'm not a proprietor and I'm not necessarily on the boards, but I don't know what's happening and what advocates are coming our way. For example, is Bowl Canada doing anything to advocate for their proprietor members for COVID? Is the C5 national body sending out messages to their membership? And I feel like there's a little bit of a lack of communication out there that could be stronger to the membership. That's a bit sad. So it's just sort of, wondering if anybody's seen some communication, know what they're doing for us. Obviously, we know that some provinces are closed, but doesn't seem to be there's a whole lot going on from the people that we're members of. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of want to give Tim and Dexter the option. They don't have to comment on obviously this topic just because of your proprietorship, and I hope nobody holds these conversations to a flame, because these are our own opinions, and they don't reflect the businesses or the associations or anything we're really a part of. They're just personal opinion. My main thing is, let's look at Alberta. So Alberta is on full lockdown. All sports are shut down besides professional sports. There's an Alberta recovery plan. There's some other stuff, but there's nothing really specific for proprietor ran sports. most sports, team sports, are publicly funded or ran by the cities or the communities. But bowling is proprietor ran. The proprietor provides the facility, and the bowlers go play the sport. So without them having a specific grant, it's so tough for these guys to catch up, since they're losing their peak time, and hope they can recover during the summer is just not realistic.
Yeah, we're one of the few industries that are completely lost in all of this. I mean, yeah, there's rent subsidies and there's wage subsidies, but nobody truly understands what the industry is like and how it's so geared towards seasonal and where we're heading as a sport and as an industry as a whole. I think it's completely lost on the government, and I mean, obviously they have bigger things to think about, but we're in such a gray area where we're part rec center, we're part sport facility. This is where the open play, we are open, but we were open, but we were shut down for leagues, and we're really stuck in a spot where we need advocates to start hitting up MLAs and the Canadian government, the provincial governments, and all this, because you know what, we're all in a really dire spot now. We're in constant communication with tons of proprietors and all those little guys. It's getting tougher and tougher with every shutdown, and the subsidies just aren't going to be enough if it runs out in the summer and there's not ways to generate income. It's going to be devastating to our sport come summer, because right now nobody has the ability to create that slush fund that you need for that summer, and the overhead is exponential.
Sorry, Tim, I don't mean to cut you off. I just want to add something real quick. Shauna kind of asked what's the answer. Obviously we don't want to say you have to open the proprietor's doors so they can make money, because that isn't in the public's best interest health-wise, right? But there's got to be a specific way the provincial governments or the federal government can look at a proprietor-run sport and provide a special grant specifically for that idea, right? Right now, it's a blanket grant system that, unfortunately, a lot of the small proprietorships, I'm not sure if a lot of people follow Leduc Lanes on Facebook, but a lot of people may not agree with her thought process, but she is, let's point it straight, she is one of the centers that will be definitely closed. There is no way around it. She's resorted to a GoFundMe. I don't think that's the best option for these proprietors to be asking for donations. That shouldn't be a system when the government is shutting them down and not giving them an option out.
Yeah, the hard. Yes, sorry, Carrie. The hard part is with Leduc is that now, do I fully agree with her? No. Do I understand where she's coming from? Absolutely. I think that she has merit what she says. However, when she is going against AHS and government orders, and I understand her frustration. It paints bowling alleys all in Alberta in a tough spot, and puts us in a right. It makes us look all bad at the same time. But
it's even bad publicity. At
least it's good publicity, right? So, like I know we've been, like I was talking to Daryl today, we're hitting up our MLAs and doing all this other stuff. But what can we do? You know, do we hit up global news? Do we hit up news sources? Like, at what point do we start hitting up larger things?
Whose responsibility is that?
Right. You know, at this point, do we just stir the pot? Right. I mean, at that point, right. I was privy to some information. There was a town hall meeting in Alberta with Henshaw and Chandro and other sports. And I was telling Daryl about this earlier, and I think I told you guys that, you know, like all the sports heads were in there, and they were talking about when we had closures back in November, and they were talking about what were they going to do with all these restrictions before they did a forced shutdown. And they said And curling came out, and curling said, "Hey guys, we're a publicly funded business, or sorry, we're a private business. We're not publicly funded. What are you going to do for us if we have to close down permanently? These restrictions are hurting us." And both of them, our health minister, our health lady who does all the stuff, right, and our health minister Chandra both said, "We don't know." Right, so bowling was lumped in with that. So when they say, "I don't know," and they have no answer for us, right? We got it, bowling and curling, and there's some other facilities out there. I know there's some private golf courses, obviously, and there's other places out there that are in unique situations. There has to be, sometimes you just have to maybe be loud enough sometimes in order to create that.
And that's what I was getting at is,
Yeah.
in a way, what are our national bodies doing to support the bowling centers and the members?
Yeah.
In a way, sure, I might calling them out. What is Bowl Canada doing to advocate for proprietors? What is C5 doing to communicate to all their members? What is, Bowl Alberta? I know a little bit of what Grady's working with AHS.
Right.
I just don't know if they are doing everything in their power. And that's what I want to make sure that they are. And if they are, then great, good for you. I just don't know that they are. I'm a proprietor, I'm a member, but I don't hear anything. So I would personally like to see some more communication from our national bodies, provincial bodies, whatever it is, to communicate to us. I sit on a couple of other boards, and we've mandated to our general managers or CEOs of the companies of the sport organizations that they need to communicate with their members every 2 to 3 weeks, regardless if you're open or that you're closed, regardless if there's an update or not an update. But let's be real here. Anybody talking about bowling is 5-Pin Universe right now. I'm not seeing anything communication coming out from Bowl Canada, from C5. Maybe that's where we need to get them onto a podcast to talk about what are they doing on our behalf or on the proprietor's behalf. It's not us, let's be honest. I mean, as much as I want to go bowling, as much as everybody wants to go bowling, it's about the proprietors and supporting them so that they have a business to run, so that we can help them.
Let's be fair. Like if something doesn't get figured out, these associations that are supposed to be supporting the sport, the proprietors are the backbone. If all of a sudden the proprietor can't be open, those associations don't exist.
They don't have jobs, right? And the other part of that town hall meeting you guys have, from my understanding, is that they're looking not to have any group activities until the fall, until everybody has a vaccine.
And that's complete BS. There's no fucking way that can last and people are going to be able to survive that. I mean, my other association, that's bullshit that golf gets to do it and yet bowling can't in a safe way. It's garbage that you can't last that long. I mean, there has to be some advocacy for us. And if it's not going to happen for bowling until September, we might as well quit our sport and be done with it. It's garbage. You have to get a roll. Get these vaccines going. Open up safely. I'm an eternal optimist, but right now I'm just pissed off that more businesses aren't open and my friends are suffering, and it sucks. And I don't know what my national bodies are doing to help my friends, right? So it's the time that somebody, the squeaky wheel gets something going here, because it's garbage.
Brad, as an outsider that you guys are kind of in a totally different position. How do you see it with all these other provinces struggling, obviously, with COVID and these proprietors?
I think the biggest issue is consistency, right? And you looked at this in Britain, right? Britain stopped following the orders when they didn't make sense, right? I couldn't see my family, but I could go to a restaurant and eat with 150 people. And I feel, and God love the conservative governments across this country, but it's the conservative government provinces that are doing an absolute shit job at this, and I got no trouble naming that politically. It doesn't make sense. Right now you're in lockdown, so cool, we get that. Everything is shut down. But when you're not in lockdown, but you can have open bowling, which is not controlled, versus league bowling, which is controlled, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And when Dex and Tim go to do a budget, they have a fixed cost budget and a fixed revenue budget and a variable cost budget and a variable revenue budget. And the league is the fixed revenue. right? That's how they go. We're going to put synthetic lanes down. We're going to put in a virtual thing. They can't do that based on open bowling. They have to do that on the guaranteed income coming in. And I think what happens, and Darryl Bradley, I think your frustration is very well placed, is that there's a lack of logic. And I try to hold my tongue usually, but you're right in that there's definitely a disappointment in the presence of our national bodies. Bob Osborne really couldn't stand Ball Canada, and therefore that wore off on me. So me and Ball Canada kind of struggle. So I'll hold my tongue there. But I get that everyone's going through stuff, but there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of government grants that go into bowling associations for bowlers, and a responsibility comes with that. And I go to those two things, right? There needs to be a consistency. And Dex and Tim, you're the guys living it. I can't imagine the frustration, the lack of consistency for you. Because for me, I lose what I'm doing with my buddies. For you, you're using your livelihood. And then I look to the associations. I go, yeah, we all got life going on, but you chose to be in whatever position you're in. And advocacy is a part of those positions. And it's easy to advocate when everything's great. It's really hard to advocate when it's not. And sometimes you got to look like the bad person. Right? When you're banging on the minister of whatever you call your minister of get out and go bowling, your minister of rec, your minister of sport, whatever each province has, you're going to look like a bad person. Who cares? Right? That's your job as the elected rep of an organization.
Yeah. I think, we're lucky that we have a forum here that we can reach our bowlers to talk about this. Obviously, there's 20,000 bowlers across the country, but we're the elite, or we're not just that. We want to open up to everybody. So open invite to our association, presidents or vice presidents, or CEOs, the Paul Oliveras, the C5 presidents. Annette, Tim, I know you're A5 and C5. For them to come on and let us know what they are doing to advocate for us. Right? I'm sure Grady would be happy with that opportunity. I think that. And that's all that I think that people are asking for. And that's all I'm asking for is just communicate with the bowlers and communicate with your centers to make sure you're letting them know what you're doing for them. And I just don't know if they're doing that. I'm sure. What are they doing? You're paying them fees. What are they doing? If they're still working, there's got to be something more. And just communicate that. That's all that people are asking for. So, maybe we'll reach out to those guys. Paul, we obviously know, and, Annette or Len Easlison or somebody there from the C5 provincial bodies, happy to host another podcast so we can talk about what it is that they're doing to advocate for bowling centers and people, right? And
nice, Brett.
Tim unfortunately does take the brunt of it. He is, and he is the A5 president, and he does a good job about defending the A5. But Tim's also a person. In the group of a board, but it's he can take back the comments that we asked for A5, and I think in his defense does do a good job of communicating here to Edmonton of tournaments, of what's happening and whatnot. And to be on full percent transparency, I'm looking for what the national body's doing, right? So let's have that conversation. We want bowling to be back. Obviously, we want it to be safe, but there's got to be some advocacy. Anyway, my soapbox.
Thank you, DB.
Right.
That was a good soapbox. That was enjoyable.
Yeah. That's artwork here, whether it was Bobby O tribute.
I love a good rant. I'm really good at ranting.
That was almost like a 660 rant there. That was perfect.
Oh wow, it was good, and then you insulted me.
Reach out to Paul, right? Hopefully he'll agree to come on. I know he's done the podcast, so he'll come on. But anyways, that's enough of that topic. So let's wrap it up. Obviously, most importantly was Brad as our guest. Thanks for coming on tonight. Really great stories, man. A lot of great comments in here. Talking about your memory is amazing. Some of your history. I look forward to seeing you go on. Big tribute to Bob Osborne, obviously what he did for the sport, competitor, proprietor, whatnot. So great to see there. We've got some good comments from all the people out there. It looks like Masters sort of won the battle as far as the national format. Yep. But yeah, it was a great show. Great to have you, Brad. Wrap up comments there from the other guys.
Yeah, we sure miss having you out here, Brad. It was a good year.
Real quick, I got to say I loved it. And Daryl, I didn't really meet you, but I was looking forward to chatting with you guys. I'm aware there's people watching, but Dex, I got to play with you. Tim, we had great chats. Obviously, Kerry, we were in the same zone, so I had great times with you. We roomed together, which was interesting. So I really was. So it's been great, guys. I really appreciate it.
Brad, did you know Daryl was a bowler?
I did. Of course I knew Daryl was a bowler. Did you not listen to the bowling things I just reamed off, Tim?
No, I just want to make sure.
What's scary is you think I named off the Newfoundland teams those year. You start asking me the other teams, and then it gets scary.
Yeah, maybe the 8 team around the guys that were in the bubble for
So I appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, Brad, thanks for staying up so late.
Absolutely. My 5-year-olds will have outside playtime tomorrow morning.
Well, we'll let you go, Brad. Stick around in the back. We'll just do our little quick wrap up out here, and we'll come back and chat. But thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time, and we'll chat in a bit.
Perfect. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
That was awesome.
Was very good. Awesome. What an amazing memory.
Mind blowing. He's talking about concussions and the anxiety that came from that, and clearly has not affected his memory at all. So amazing.
You know, wonder what kind of homework he did sitting there last night talking to all the guys. Okay, what stories should I tell? I think he's just dialed in that way.
Yeah, it was great. Incredible. It was great having him. Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, obviously we will be doing a podcast again next week. So we hope to have everybody tune in for that.
Next week, let's do a teaser. We know who it is?
Yeah, we do.
Very excited about having this. He's come, give Tim, you're the booking agent. Let us know who's on next week and the week after if you want.
Yeah. So we actually have the next 2 weeks booked. We're super excited to have Tom Patterson back on next week. Tom's going to come on and he's going to talk about his new book. And so he's going to give us a little bit of a teaser on that. And then on the 27th, we're really excited to have all the way from Quebec, Helene Gomer is going to be coming on. So really excited to have Helene to come on. So that's going to be really good to have her.
Yeah. Can't wait for that.
Anyways, good show, guys. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us and listening. Make sure you do your Patreon. Make sure you do a YouTube subscriber to 5-Pin Universe. Share this as much as you can. The more awareness, the more things that we can talk about bowling and do for the sport, the better, right? So.
And now that you guys know the guests, maybe even submit some questions privately or even post on our Facebook page, and maybe we'll get those guests to answer those right away for you.
Go
on.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.